Good morning, Intenders.
Good morning.
Welcome to Morning Intentions. Today is Tuesday, November 11th. Thank you for joining us this morning and every morning. We're continuing on with this month's theme, What's Your Why? Moving from hustle to heart. I wanted to add a little something from how we started our episode yesterday, when we've recognized I've had an inauthentic why for a long time. The other thing that's come up for me is and this could be a big word, it's the F word.
Oh no.
Not the F word.
Stop.
Self-forgiveness, that F word.
Oh, self-forgiveness.
You know, it may sound like the other F word to some ears because forgiveness, it sounds so hard, so big, but we're not going to worry about forgiving other people at this point. I want us to consider, if we can, forgiving ourselves of our own ignorance.
What does that mean?
Well,
what does ignorance mean in this sense?
Okay, so think of our definition of compassion. Would you like to share it for us?
We're all doing the best we can with the tools, awareness, and understanding we have at the moment.
That's right. And it's that at the moment part. Our definition of forgiveness is rooted in the belief that if we knew better, we would have done better.
What is our definition of forgiveness?
Our definition of forgiveness is that it's the decision to see with clarity instead of judgment.
There's a lot to it, but I just wanted you to put that out there.
Yeah, that's the one sentence version.
Yes, our definition actually has about 2 paragraphs to it.
Yeah, it's us in our working definitions. They're never short, they're long and they're drawn out and they're detailed. So the one
but
sentence
they're necessary.
They are, because we have to know what we're talking about. We just can't throw out these words and say, everyone should know what this means. Gosh, don't you know what forgiveness is?
Well, because we all have different meanings for all these different words.
That's right.
And topics. So back to self-forgiveness, though. You wanted to bring up self-forgiveness, right?
That's right. So forgiveness, the decision to see with clarity instead of judgment, bringing in our definition of compassion as well. We're all doing the best we can with the tools, awareness, and understanding we have in the moment. If we would have known better, we would have done better. If we knew the true, authentic why that was authentic, had meaning and purpose, we would have lived from that space because we knew that's what was true for us. So with self-forgiveness and the inauthentic why, moving from clarity and away from judgment, we want to extend that to ourselves through a gentle release of self-judgment. If I knew my authentic why, I would have lived from that. Now I know it, and I could let go of the inauthentic why and move beyond that. Because if we're just sitting there and judging, well, gosh, I've lived for 20 years with an inauthentic why, what does that actually do for us? Does it really move us forward, or is that just another avenue for self-punishment?
I think this would be a really nice time for you to share our working definition of self-forgiveness. I don't think we've ever done that in the podcast, but I keep it here on my table by my monitor. I think we should share what our working definition of self-forgiveness is, because as you're saying, what we were talking about yesterday, we might find that, oh my goodness, I've been working for a decade in a job that I didn't like, wasn't serving me, wasn't helping me to show up as the best version of myself. I did so much on autopilot. I didn't have the ability to distinguish, am I doing this for approval or am I acting from purpose? Remember, meaning, purpose, and authenticity. We might go into self-judgment, and you mentioned the very first line of our working definition of self-forgiveness is the gentle release of self-judgment. But I think it would be nice if you wouldn't mind to share our working definition that you and I use for self-forgiveness.
Sure thing. So we already shared the short version of our working definition of self forgiveness. Self forgiveness is the gentle release of self judgment. And this has 5 parts to it. First one is we stop identifying ourselves with our mistakes and start remembering our humanity. Number 2, we recognize that every misstep came from confusion, fear, or a lack of awareness. It's not who we truly are. The third point in self forgiveness is that we look at our actions with honesty and compassion so we can grow beyond them. The fourth point, we stop fighting the past and create space for peace, accountability, and authentic change. And finally, the last part, we return to the truth that we are not the worst thing we've done. We're so much more than our worst day. And in fact, we are the awareness that's learning, healing, and choosing again. That's our true selves. Now, taking that definition of self-forgiveness, I keep coming back to this thing of self-forgiveness in my mind as I'm thinking about where we're going with this month of what's our why. Because when we recognize I've just been hustling for approval, I've been hustling for my worth, it's a gut punch. As I shared last week, when I don't even know my why for wanting a thank you. I have no clue. And yeah, I could look at it and say, well, I thank you means I want respect or whatever, blah, blah, blah. It's not an authentic why. It doesn't have meaning. It doesn't have purpose. And it was a gut punch. Therefore, I've been holding on to this idea of I want a thank you. I've earned that thank you. I have to go to a place of self-forgiveness.
Well, in a way, I want to have some compassion for you here and empathy. When we're hustling for approval, which maybe is what you were doing when you were wanting to thank you, what we do is we're coming from fear. And the fear would be the fear of not being enough, not being seen, right? For your efforts or disappointing others.
So true.
What we do when we're coming from fear, like you're way back to your example from last week about wanting this thank you, is we're looking for external reactions from other people. We want praise, we want recognition, we want applause, we want acceptance. But that's all outside in living. Then we have this appetite that can become insatiable for praise, recognition, and applause. Now, I do understand too, there's not just one way to think about this. Many things can be true. You also have a need for connection. You also have a need to be seen. But I think we have to think about the whole picture here, as that when we're hustling for approval or we're hustling for reactions from other people, which could include the thank you, we have to make sure we recognize that that's more external validation as opposed to I'm fine right here, right now, whether I receive a thank you or not.
That's the key point, though. That what you just said right there. Of course, we like being polite around here. I was taught, say your pleases and your thank yous. Can't play with your Christmas gifts until you write a thank you. So I see, yes, it is great to say please and thank you in the world. It's kind and it's nice. I like it. The thing, though, am I living for the thank you? And most of all, what you just said, oh man, it hit me hard. Living from the outside in, how many times have I thanked myself?
Right.
A big fat 0.
So if you were thanking yourself, and I don't want to discount that we do have a need to be seen. So I really want to make sure that we understand that. But if you're truly seeing yourself and you're living from the inside out,
I would say a thank you would have been nice, but I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good because I know why I did
the
it.
right thing. I know why I did it. Thank you, Ada. I could just say it to myself.
Yes, right.
And the pressure and the drive and the hustle for approval just goes away because I'm thanking me, and that's the most important thing. Then I can actually act from purpose. But if I'm just living, okay, I'm going to do this because I'm going to get a thank you. Well, what kind of life is that? That's so inauthentic. And then I can be doing things that maybe I don't care about, maybe I don't want to do because hey, I got to get those thank yous. That's what juices me up.
Truly, and this is a truly. When we hustle for approval, when we live from the outside in, we never feel that place inside of us. That's that place of belonging and self-worth, because then we don't first belong to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we also, and you know this, we also experience burnout because we just keep hustling for our worth,
Yep.
hustling for approval. And what we want to do, and we're going to talk about this more because we have more prepared that we want to share about this, but there's hustling for approval versus acting from purpose. There's a huge distinction. From the outside, it may look the same. I always give this example, I may bake you cookies hustling for approval, or I can bake you cookies acting from purpose. I want to bake you cookies acting from purpose.
And only you would know that.
Right. And that's what this whole discussion is, to help us to identify where is our action coming from.
Now, what's our inner motivation? And with that in mind, our intention for today is when I recognize I have an inauthentic why, I will practice self-forgiveness. When I recognize I have an inauthentic why, I will practice self-forgiveness, gently releasing myself of my own self-judgment. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our day is better because you are part of our day. See you tomorrow.
See you then.